Hello, this is Cronin. Welcome to the speedrun tutorial for Dynamite Headdy. This is part 5. We're covering scenes 6-1 through 6-4. The main thing you need to worry about for these stages is health management, keeping your health high, and trying to avoid as much damage as possible. You'll be needing a lot of health, and I mean a lot, for the two bosses, 6-2 and 6-4. There is some time saves, but they're mainly RNG based. Anyway. First, I will show you the differences in the Japanese version versus the American version for this game. It'll be a little out of sync, but let's just go with it. So let's go like... So first thing, you want to get the laser head in the Japanese version. I'll explain more later. Well, actually, I'll explain right now. Basically, you're not going to have a 100% chance of getting Laserhead, which you'll need for the 6-2 boss. There is a chance you'll get it with the head cases, but in 6-2 itself you won't have Laserhead. So there's a chance you won't get it, and it will make that fight much harder and much longer. In the American version, it's guaranteed. So you'll notice that American version, even though it started a little bit ahead, is way ahead, actually, because it's already going into the mini-boss fight right now. Whereas in the Japanese version, yeah, it's just now starting. So the mini-boss fight does go differently. Because you get Propeller Head in the American version, the fight goes quite differently. So I'll wait for the battleship to show up in the Japanese version before explaining. Okay. So let's scroll back here a little bit. Okay, so first thing you want to do in both versions is to get rid of the cannon here in the super battleship mouth. This cannon right here, it's basically in the top part of the jaw. Will shoot out this homing snake with like a face. It will move around towards you in like curvy directions. It's not linear, and it will always target you and home in on you wherever you are. It'll stop momentarily, but it's very annoying to deal with. It has a lot of health. It's much quicker, much safer to just get rid of it at the beginning, because you do have some time here. It's not a time waste to get rid of this cannon. It's just going to drain your health, and you really want to have more than half your health going into 6-2. So in both versions, this is your first target right here. Just shoot at it. It's probably going to be easier for you to target with diagonal shots if you have Propeller Head, and well, with Laserhead, just aim right here. It takes about 7 hits of damage before it dies. So in the American version, after you get rid of that, you want to actually go around the back, because if you're in the front, and this will be much more of a problem in the Japanese version with Laserhead, or if you choose to get Laserhead here, I don't know why, maybe you're just cool, you'll have to deal with both these two turrets and the planes and the bombs that they're dropping. They will all be in the front of the battleship. In the back, you just have to deal with the back turret and the bombs when they explode. That's it. You won't even really have to deal with this back turret, because what you can do is use a diagonal shot to stay underneath its range and just peck at it with shots. It takes 24 hits of damage before it blows up. So you notice that I haven't mentioned actually attacking the battleship itself, which is weak at the cockpit, and the reason is because this boss is actually pretty interesting in the way that it takes damage. Basically, it's like any other boss, but once it gets down to 8 health, if it isn't at a certain point in the stage, additional damage will actually make it regen its health. So you'll go down like 10, 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, until it reaches a point in which case it goes back down to 0. So this is a problem. but it's not a huge one. Basically, the way I deal with it is I just wait for another certain point, which I'll point out, when you can start firing, and you'll be able to go down all of its health. And so before that happens, you do have enough time to get rid of these turrets in both versions. So we're going to be waiting for these clouds to appear here, but not yet. We're not going to fire just yet. This is actually a older video. This isn't really the best position. It is a good position. You can start firing here, but actually a better position is waiting for the lights to appear, and specifically between the foreground lights and the background lights. You can see them flashing there, sort of. It's kind of hard to see with this bitrate. Anyway, that's when you start unleashing your onslaught onto the cockpit. Now, the strat here is basically you want to stay in this corner here, and you want to shoot with diagonal shots. And first of all, you want to stay in this corner because you won't have to move much. Your diagonal shots will hit it when it's low, and when it races high, your horizontal shots will be able to hit it. You will have to move just a tiny bit to avoid damage from the bomb explosion projectiles, which, by the way, will alternate. They don't always explode in the same manner. They're fairly easy to see when they blow up on the left side of the screen. It's much harder to deal with when you're on the left side of the screen. And another thing, your horizontal shots will actually have little gaps in them versus your diagonal shots, which will be a steady stream. So even if you're firing horizontally, there'll be some shots won't miss, so you won't be able to get continuous damage. This isn't a huge issue. It's just something you should note. If you're missing shots, it'll just help you kill the boss just a little bit quicker, and it's just safer and easier to shoot with diagonals anyway. They cover much more range, and I don't know, it seems safer for me to shoot, to have your damage hit at like a lower point versus where your body is. So basically, once you get to the top of the clouds, you just have a little bit more damage to deal before the boss dies. Not much really more to say about the American version. That's it. By the way, you want to avoid getting on any other heads. You will get laser head in 6.2 every time. So just keep propeller head. You can change if you want to be goofy. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure to get laser head in 6.2, which I'll explain in a second. Now let me change the resolution on this emulator real quick. Okay. So this is a Japanese version again, and the fight will go differently. We're going to have to start on the left side, and we're going to have to shoot down these two turrets because they're really annoying. But since I just got here, I'm going to have to kill the jaw snake first. It's not as easy to target with the laser head. So yeah, you want to avoid that head case, which will always go in your direction. If you can, try not to hit the cockpit and try to destroy those two turrets at once. Now this fight is still a little more difficult because you have to dodge these bullets, you have to dodge these planes. You're gonna have to be moving left and right and up and down. Just know that you do have these options of movement here. Don't just stay in one place and tank damage if you can. If you do blow up the bomb early, just duck down. Usually you'll be able to avoid the hit. It's really not that bad, but it will take some getting used to. This is actually pretty hard to do, especially as a beginner. It's going to be a lot to deal with, especially with this cloud in the foreground. It's going to be hard to see what's going on, which is the point. But you're just going to have to practice this. Not too much. I don't think it's really that crazy hard, but the main thing is making sure that you have a decent amount of health, and I do here. Okay, so that's it for 6-1. Let's see, just remember to get laser head as early as you can. It's gonna just save you the trouble of having to worry about getting these head cases. Okay, so anyway, 6-2. Let's see. So first off, this is a boss, which means there is going to be some text that pops up. basically, when Maruyama here, which is, you know, Trouble Bruin, when he appears in the center of the screen, when he gets her, that's when the bubble will pop up. So right about here. Okay, just press start, get rid of it. So yeah, there's a propeller head. There's a bird head. There's no laser head. There's the health, yeah. This is trouble. This is troublesome to deal with. This fight is otherwise the same, just there is no laser head, so you want to come in this stage with laser head. Now the reason is because, well, let me just start showing you with the American video. With in this fight, there's a certain way of doing this fight. The main thing you want to do with this fight is you want to be constantly doing damage on Trouble Bruin or Maruyama and avoiding damage. If you're a propeller head, you can easily avoid damage, but you won't be dealing as much damage because you have to move left and right, back and forth, and it's very hard to keep on landing shots while moving around. It's almost impossible to have continuous damage. It's important to have continuous damage on this boss because that's how you get one cycle, which I'll explain in a little bit. But basically the strat is get laser head. Bird head is completely useless. You can use it if you want to be swaggy, but it is super hard to have anything fast on any of these stages except for 6-3, which there's no way to do slowly unless you die. So get laser head. This is important. And as laserhead, you want to stay basically in the center on the left side of the screen. If you stay in the center, you'll be able to constantly deal damage, and if you stay on the left side of the screen, you'll be able to see these balls coming at you. You want to shoot down these balls, and they'll be fairly easy to kill. I'll explain how to do it in a second. In terms of shooting him, you want to actually be shooting the top of his hitbox here, basically his ears, if you can. If you shoot low, it's going to be hard to hit him all the time because, as you can see, when he shoots the energy balls at you, his head is going to move upwards a little bit. If you're already shooting up, you'll be constantly shooting. You'll be hitting him anyway. But if you're shooting low, you're going to be missing shots. And he will also be moving his entire body up and down based off the slopes in the stage, so it's just much easier to deal with if you're already shooting high. Always get this health. It's there. You're going to be low on health anyway. Just get it. Okay, so here, when you see these big slopes, he's going to move up. So be ready to move up with him, like that, and then down. And again, I was slow there. And down. So yeah, another reason why you want to stay up is when he shoots these energy balls, he's obviously aiming at your direction. You can just duck down and duck under them. Their hitboxes are very large. They're easier to dodge when he's far to the right of the screen, but as he gets closer, they get harder to dodge. So this is something you're gonna have to deal with. You won't, when he shoots low, you're almost always gonna be taking the hit. When you have high health, you want to take damage, but when you're at low health, you want to just miss hits instead. So the goal here is to get one cycle, but if you have low health, to survive, because one cycle will save you about 12 to 15 seconds. Cool sumo. Versus a minute or more. No, over a minute, like a minute and a half of redoing the entire stage, which is ugly and you don't want to do anyway. The other thing is when he closes in on you, his energy balls are going to be doing like 3 hits of damage. It's going to take down your health very quickly. So what you want to do instead is when he's close, you want to just bump into his hitbox and you'll just take 1 hit of damage instead. So if you're low on health, but you still think you can do a good fight, like you're still trying to aim for 1 cycle, just try to take that that damage there off his body, off his head really, and then that will be a little bit easier to deal with. Okay, when he shoots these balls at you, you don't really need to aim at them so much. You can just stay on the left side of the screen. I'll show on the last phase here, but so moving on to one cycle, we saw him went into the background once. Like, he came in from the background, but he went in a second time. One cycle, he'll only go in the background twice, when he begins and when he ends. But this is a middle phase, which is you're much more likely to see, where he'll go back up, he'll go back and then come back in the front. And if you're doing a lot of damage, there's two ways this will go down. He'll either go left, he'll always go left once, but he might just stop in the middle and then go back, or he'll go right and then go in the middle and then go back. And it takes about 8 seconds to go back on these two halves. So here he goes back in, so that saves 8 seconds versus having to do the right. And the less damage you do, the more he's going to go left and right, and then go back, and then do it again and again. So you obviously really want to do as much damage as possible while still maintaining your health. Now here, you see this this big hill here? You can use this to center yourself in the center of the screen. Just duck up against it, or just be close to it. That is basically center screen. And what you can do here is just constantly fire your laser. Now, I'm being finicky in this video, but as he gets close to you, this is important because you can try to dodge these, or you can try to shoot them, but it's actually consistent to shoot a steady stream of laser, because all of the top bullets will just run into the laser, and you just need to duck if he's shooting low bullets, and it's kind of hard to show here. But basically in this phase, he's shooting 2 balls at once, basically, and he does that for a while, and that's what you want to see when this fight is done. If you see this earlier than you think, that's going to be one cycle, and I'll show off one cycle in a bit. And the stage is pretty much done. Once he hits this, you want to go on the right side of the screen in the center, and then once that passes through the left, you're done with this stage. Okay? So let me just show you the laser strat real quick. So I'll duck here. I'll just hold here, and you'll see those bullets are getting pretty close, but they'll blow up before they hit me. And I won't show the whole fight. Okay, so the thing to do with one cycle, there is one more thing. You notice how he shot out those tiny little wheels? These things. These things will shoot an electric arc between them. Don't kill them. You need them to stay on screen for as long as possible, actually. So you can give them a little bit of damage, and you can miss some damage. Oh, this is risky. Yeah, so that's not one cycle. I missed a few shots, but basically, what makes one cycle happen is if those wheels are on screen, it's going to keep Trouble Bruin or Maruyama on screen. If you get rid of them, he will go back. But if they're on screen, he will continually move back and forth. So you want to see him do one extra movement from right to all the way left back to center. It's going to be tricky because what you want them is to stay as far right as possible, but if they're closing in on you on the left, and then Trouble Bruin comes in on you, and you have low health, you're going to have to start making some decisions. It might just be safer to just cancel your one cycle attack and just maintain your health, because you will be taking damage. There's no way to avoid it at that point, and you'd rather not tank damage. It's just too risky. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. Let's go back to the video real quick. These balls here, let's see if I can get to a phase. This should be good. Yeah. When you blow them up, they won't, like that obviously won't hit you, but when they blow themselves up on the terrain, like that, you notice how the explosion is so much larger? That explosion will actually hurt you. You want to avoid that. Especially, well, at all times, but especially with low health. When these balls hit the terrain, they will explode and hurt you. Be careful of that. See, I'm fine here on the left, but if I was in the middle, I would take damage from that, and they do significant damage. Not like 6 damage, but more like 3, and that's risky. So just be wary of that. There's a lot to talk about in this boss. You can tell. It's actually a lot deeper than it seems on first glance. Anyway, let me show you how the
seconds behind.
Yeah, hi past me. How the one cycle goes. This is the first time I saw it. Actually, let's make this a little bigger. So hopefully I wasn't too jumbled explaining all this. There's just a bunch of stuff. Everything is important here. Okay, so you're seeing there on the far right of the screen those tiny wheels. This is good. And I'm doing a decent amount of damage. I am actually missing shots. The more... See, he didn't go in the center there. You can miss shots, but it's not worth doing that. It's because you won't always get that RNG. And it is RNG based off them being in center or wherever they are. And so you see he'll do 2 balls at once here. This is one cycle and it saves 15 seconds. 12 to 15. You know, depending on how your split is and so forth and how it works out. Yeah. Pretty cool. Let's see, am I forgetting to mention anything? Yeah, so just it is RNG based off if those wheels stay in the front. So either way, you want to be doing as much damage as possible while managing your health, blah, blah, blah. It is, in fact, possible to get one cycle when those tiny wheels just disappear off-screen, but you can't miss a single hit at all. You have to get every single hit in. And even then, it might depend on some other factors. But it is possible to get one cycle with the tiny wheels disappearing off-screen. Yeah, okay, so that's 6-2. It's pretty crazy. I've exhausted myself. Please rewind the video if you missed anything. Okay, so 6-3. This is an auto-scroller. It is absolutely impossible to save time on this stage, but there are some things to mention, mainly in terms of dealing with it, things you should look out for. To start with, here, I'll let this turret appear on screen. This turret right here, this one. This is your friend if you're on very low health and you don't care about taking a death. If you have like flashing red health and like one hit will kill you, you can use this guy to die. You can kill yourself on this turret if you really need to, okay? It's there for you. He'll do it for you. He's your death buddy. No, but seriously. This is the quickest death in the game. It's only 4 seconds to run into him, die, and then restart the stage. And get back to this position. It'll just take 4 seconds. You just hold right and the ceiling will push you right into him. Just don't shoot him down and you'll just run right into him. It's the quickest way to die. Again, use that if 6-2 really drained your health all the way and you're not confident of maintaining your health all the way through 6-3 and all the way through Babyface 6-4 boss. So he's there. That's your little buddy. Otherwise, this stage again is all about health management or otherwise avoiding damage. Now you have some options here. On this part, the path splits. It does not save time to go between the 2 paths. You can't save time based off frames or anything. Based off lag reduction, I mean. The bottom path is actually harder because these pistons here are a little harder to avoid in between the electric arcs here. The top path has turrets, which you could just shoot down. And there's some electric arcs, but there's only just one and not this. And this is like just a tighter squeeze. But top path is easier. It's just easier, yeah. In this area, this big area here, there's going to be these floating bubbles. You can shoot them down or just go between them. It's easier to shoot them, while those little wheels will be arcing through the air. They move slowly, and it's the hitbox is you know, it's cut in half, because as they are just floating there in the balloons, you know, you have the balloon and the wheel versus just the wheel moving around. So just shoot them down if you're uncomfortable. On the second part after the big area, you have electric arcs on both ceiling and floor, and this is the tightest tunnel squeeze. Here, you just want to be in the middle and just shoot your laser. Hopefully you have laser. Propeller head also works. Bird head, you need to get close. Don't have bird head? Why do you have bird head? You can get this close if you're feeling cocky. You can shoot them down with just shots. It's fairly simple to get rid of them, but the main thing is making sure that you're in the middle. And you want to be in the middle before it tightens up like that. You can see it coming, so just do that. Those pistons, that is actually one of the... That's even a tighter squeeze in that tunnel we just saw. Here you want to basically... I didn't mention this earlier, but in these areas, the best movement is not to hold your D-pad, but to actually do taps, because you have much more control. When you hold, you're going to have a little bit of sliding. Just like in general in this game, there's a little bit of sliding when you're holding right or left. Just a little bit. So just tap, it's much easier to control. As long as you're in the top part of this area, you'll avoid this guy and his little bullet. Same with these dudes, just stay above. Don't worry about it, just try to avoid the electric arcs, and you'll probably avoid the turrets too. This part, it's actually very easy to get through this part. Just stay on the bottom. Just stay low, and you'll be able to dodge all of these monkeys. And the last thing is just make sure you get this health up right here. That's it. And of course, be on the far right edge of the screen when you finish the stage. If you do save or lose time, it's probably from your splits, from you splitting. There might be like a frame to save on that stage. I'm not entirely sure, but it's really not important. Okay. Okay. I forgot where this is, but again, let me show you the, there's going to be another difference here between American and Japanese versions in terms of how the stage works, or how it pans out. This is not big at all. It's just another lengthening of the Japanese version versus the American version. It's possible that the American version is just quicker because they realize it's a bit long, a bit too dramatic relative to the Japanese version. American players just want to get to the action and so forth. Who knows? Treasure knows. I don't know if they'll say. Anyway, so I think this is about right. Actually, let's just unpause here. So yeah. The fight in the American version is already starting. The Japanese version still has to wait for these head cases to move one by one across the screen. And right. So let's embiggen this again. There is again a text bubble when you get to the boss. Basically, when the bird head case disappears from off screen, a little bit after that, the text bubble will pop up. So just press start, you're good to go. By the way, this boss won't do anything if you don't do anything. He'll just stand there. So this will happen actually for every phase. For baby face, boy face, man face, and old man face. The way to get it started is to shoot it. Just one shot. But actually, for this phase, you want to just start shooting and keep shooting. But for the other phases, it'll be a little bit different. Okay, so let's break down Babyface. The time save here is basically on Boyface is a thing that I like to call double finger, but we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so what you want to do for Babyface is you just want to start shooting. And before I start, he will actually move towards where Headdy's position is. So you can use that to your advantage. You don't want to be low. If you're too low, he's going to go back and forth 3 times. So you want him to do it only 2 times. So the working strat is to start high, and then go low. And he'll go back at you when he reaches center. Another advantage of this is you can see he's shooting these energy bubbles around my position. By starting off high, most of those will already start high, and you'll have a lot more space in between these bullets to maneuver. You don't want to take any more than a few hits of damage off these, because you need much more health on Boy Face, where you'll be tanking like 2 hits. So yeah, when those explode, shooting will not actually help here, because in this animation here, he doesn't take any damage. And again, he won't move until you start shooting him. Okay, so I shot him, but why am I not shooting him? Because he's moving again. His whole head is animated. This applies to just Boy Face and Man Face, so half the fight. He's gonna go from the center to the right edge of the screen. When he reaches the right edge of the screen, that's when you want to start shooting. So now, he'll shoot his finger at you, and then his finger will start shooting electric bolts all around. They're fairly easy to dodge on the first attack, but he's going to be moving to the left. And by the way, Laserhead continues to be the best for this whole set of scenes here. Propellerhead, again, you have to move around, and also for Boy Face and Man Face, his hand will actually block your shots. Laserhead goes through everything, so that's going to be another advantage it has. The problem is just here. Well, mainly you can't dodge as easily, but here especially, if you want to be doing constant damage, which you do, you're going to have to tank some hits. Fortunately, if you stay on the left side here, his bulbous head, well, I guess his hair, will actually not hurt you. His hitbox is more in the middle, basically up from where his neck is. So you can just keep on firing here, but the thing that'll hurt you is his finger. Actually, I'm probably gonna die here. Okay, no. So you can actually get here with pretty low health. You just need to not be at like minimum health. You need to be able to take 2 hits. So you want to have at least middle health, hopefully not too much lower than that. It gets riskier. Of course, if it's you're just too low health, then just don't worry about this. Just take more time in this boss, because again, going through all this, especially on the Japanese version, is just going to cost you that much more time. But the main thing here is when you're going to take those 2 hits, but he's going to shoot these electric bolts. You don't want to take a 3rd hit. You're going to want to move in between these electric bolts and his face. Whoops. Okay, whatever. This is actually a good point to switch over to the American version on the emulator to show you what the 2 cycle looks like. So basically, more often than not, let me just cycle through here. Here it is. But let's show it, because I didn't get it in this version. So again, he'll do this this finger attack, and what usually happens is he'll do a 3rd finger attack, and you can move it. You can move the 1st and 3rd finger wherever you want, but 2nd finger should always be left, because his head will always be left. Blah blah blah. Very easy to dodge. Usually, this middle electric bolt here will explode right about here if you're doing as much damage as you can. If it's a little farther, you've wasted a little bit of time. It's not a huge deal. Again, shooting here is not actually helping. I didn't know about it at the time of this video. But that's what the typical Boy Face looks like. But what Double Finger looks like is like this. So he'll move a little bit earlier, and you'll notice a space between this electric bolt here, the horizontal one, and the Boy Face proper. It's quite some difference, quite some space there. This is good. This is what two finger usually looks like. It doesn't always pan out like this, but more often than not, what will happen is the electric bolt will explode before it reaches him. And this is great. This saves like 8 seconds. So what you actually want to do here is just wait. He's going to go back to center. His face is going to split open and fade out. And then you can start shooting for man face. Alright, so man face. Peck him, get him started. Wait till he's on the right side of the screen. Start shooting again. Now this is actually a fairly difficult fight, especially for beginners. Just like 6-1, there's going to be a lot of stuff on screen, a lot of stuff going around. You're going to have to be used to all these different elements. He's going to have these lasers. He's going to have, well, 2 sets of lasers. He's going to have the spread shot, which it's fairly easy to avoid. He's going to have the homing lasers. Well, they won't home in on you, but they'll target you, basically. I'll explain it more in a second. And also the hand. The fist itself is what will do damage, and the claw. The claw and the fist will all hurt you if you run into it. But this screen that he pulls down won't hurt you at all. No part of this screen will hurt you. It's just a fist in the hook there. So just avoid that. So the point here is to constantly be shooting. You notice this is a pattern with all these fights. Duh. But you also want to avoid when he shoots a rapid fire 5-shot laser. He will shoot horizontally when your body is level with his eye or slightly above it. If you're below his eye, he will shoot diagonally down. His head movement itself, basically regulating his laser movement, will not be just up and down. It is a consistent pattern, but it takes a little getting used to figure it out. So the fight goes like this, basically. And this is the pinch. The fist is closing in on you, and you want to be constantly doing damage. He's going to go down, and the fist is going down. So what do you do? You just wait, because it moves down very quickly. What you usually could do is just look at where Headdy is, and then just once the claw moves down, that's when you move down. It's okay to take some damage here, because this should be the only point where you'll take damage on this phase. It's really nice if you don't. It's not going to be a time difference though. If you're low on health though, obviously it might be safer to just go in front of it. It's up to you. It's going to be some trouble. This is just something you're going to have to practice and deal with. This is another pinch. You'll be shooting low, and you'll be avoiding that first slow laser, but he'll also shoot those rapid fire lasers at you, so you're just going to have to up tap. Now, not only are these lasers actually the fastest moving thing in the game, except for Headdy on the task, not really important. There's like a sling you can do with Spike Head. You won't see it in RTA for a long time, if ever. But these lasers will move very rapidly, and they'll do actually a lot of damage. You see. But basically, when the fist moves up and the screen is removed, that's basically when this phase is over. If the fist goes back up, you're gonna go through another entire cycle. That whole thing you just saw, everything, you have to do that all over again. So you want to be constantly doing damage here, or else you'll have to do it. Even if you're a beginner, it's just going to be that much more punishing. So just focus. I mean, his hitbox is pretty big, but again, it's all about health management while keeping your target in range. Your lasers. So when that's done, he'll move to center, and this is a final phase, and it's actually very simple. You don't want to actually shoot him down. You just peck him, and because it's kind of hard to tell, it's okay to just shoot a bunch of lasers, and you want to get grabbed, and that's it. There is a little bit more to explain, because actually there is some trouble that you can run into after this boss fight is done. So here, when this boss explodes, you want to avoid these explosions. These explosions, especially, see, with my health right now, if I ran into those explosions, I would die. His hitbox is still valid, and these explosions also are valid in terms of damage to you. So avoid it. Just don't run into it. Why would you do it? Okay, he's dead. He's already dead, man. Stop. And this is probably the easiest way to get a continue. Just grab him. One last thing. If you're on the top right edge of the screen here, this goes for both versions, you will soft lock. Because it'll take you way too long to get where you need to be. This whole movement here. This is a soft lock, and your run's now dead. Yep. Yes sir. It is a soft lock, so don't screw around like that. Especially as the score clear comes up, just get closer to this position here in the middle. Well, in the left middle. But that's basically it. So yeah, once again, as I've said multiple times, it's all about health management, especially here. You need to keep a high amount of health. You just want to know everything that you can in terms of avoiding damage. Avoid all of those projectiles on 6-1, 6-2, and 6-4. Be familiar with 6-3. Be able to do a damageless 6-3. It's much more difficult to do damageless 6-1, 6-2. Damageless 6-4 is fairly difficult. Sometimes it's impossible on a babyface because the projectiles are just too tightly packed. Even if you try to move them around, that's fine. But 6-3, you should not be taking damage on 6-3, especially as you get into later runs. And for the bosses, you want to be doing as much damage as possible. But for the mini boss in 6-1, just remember to start shooting when the clouds appear. That's generally a good rule of thumb. Get Laserhead early as possible in Japanese version for 6-1, and avoid Birdhead at all costs. You'd be a loony otherwise. Real loon. Anyway, yeah, that's it for scene 6-1 through 6-4. So, despite being auto-scrollers, there's actually quite a lot to cover, and actually fairly difficult. Especially 6-2. Getting one cycle is something to look out for. It's a little bit less, but basically equivalent to the Wooden Dresser one cycle, which is a pretty big time save, but completely RNG. And it's RNG for 6-2 too, but it's there. So it's always worth going for, especially if you're confident with everything else. It's something to look forward to in this den of auto-scrollers. That's it. Next will be Just Gatekeeper, because it is a very important fight and a huge fight in terms of time. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you didn't go to sleep or want to drag my trachea out for just talking way too much about some stupid stuff. I am glad you watched. I hope you learned, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.